For the month of February, we have introduced our series, What's Love Got to Do with It? And for our February midweek Wednesday night services, we are starting a series called Why Did I Get Married? By highlighting honest, emotional, and sometimes unusual love stories from the EC community. This docu-series dives deep into secret methods to making a marriage work. Featured couples include Daniel and Risha Porter, tenured couple Minister Elgin and Deidre Hood, Anthony and Monique White, DeAndre and Melissa Josenberger. By telling their stories and showing what lifelong love looks like, these duo couples offer proof that while it can happen for anyone, it certainly isn't easy. Welcome to Why Did I Get Married? A series dedicated to the journey of love.
Hi, we are the Porters.
We are the Whites.
We are the Hoods.
We are the Josenbergers.
We've been married for 6 years.
We've been married for 37 years.
We've been married for 9 years.
We've been married for almost 23 years.
And this is why we got married.
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 Well, actually, we met at Wyandotte High School. It was 1979 when we actually met. I was on the wrestling team, and she was a wrestlerette, what they call
a cheerleader for the wrestlers.
Exactly.
It just one thing led to the next.
Yeah, I was a smooth operator. That's what it was. I had game. But a friend of mine named Leroy Scott, we was on the mat stretching, getting ready to, wrestle and all that. And he kept looking up there in the bleachers with Deidre and her friends or whatever. And he was telling me how fine she was, and she was. But at the time, I wasn't interested, because, back then, we had just left our freshman year in junior high. They say middle school. I was kind of like a free agent. I didn't have no girlfriends, I wanted to check out everything, So anyway, make a long story short, Leroy kept budging me, saying, man, come up here, come up here with me. I'm like, man, if you want to talk to her, go on up there yourself. You don't need me. Yeah, man, come on, Elgin, man, come on. So I said, okay, man, I finally did it. She was smiling, Deidre always had a sweet personality. That's what I loved about her. When he started talking to her, she kept bending over and smiling at me. So I kind of caught on, and when she kept paying more attention than me than him, then I was like, okay, you out, I'm in. So that's kind of how we met in that way.
So I graduated a year before him, and I stayed started at Donnelly College, and he was still in school, but that was still my boyfriend, and just life happened, him coming to visit me, meeting my parents, and just staying together. And actually, when I was 19, my dad was murdered. He was at a wrestling meet, and I kept trying to call him, couldn't get him. He finally got home from the wrestling meet that night, and his mom brought him over, and he was with me through the whole thing as an emotional support. So just a lot of things like that, just good times, sad times, happy times, things that bring you together. Just our fellowship. I was once told that fellowships let you know you're not the only fellow in the ship. So with us fellowshipping, he let me know that I wasn't by myself.
There are 2 versions.
Oh, don't start this.
There are 2 versions.
Here we go.
So we met in July of 2016 at a book launch for Julie Jones. Initially, I didn't think I was going to be able to go, but 2 days before the event, choir rehearsal was canceled. It's sometimes about who you know. So shout out to Brian and Michelle Gines, favorite couple of mine. They are the publishers of the book. We went to the same church at the time. So I got with Michelle and I said, Michelle, I need a ticket. Got me a ticket, and showed up at the event?
So, mutual friend Julie Jones, through a mutual friend, she invited me to go. While I was there, I noticed Michelle Gines was kind of orchestrating and kind of getting some things together for drinks and cake and things like that. I just happened to notice it looked like she could use the hands. I went over and asked, if she needed some help, and shortly thereafter, I believe Monica walked up to the table to get something to drink, and I was standing there. So, the gentleman that I am, asked if she wanted something to drink, and she looked at me and she said, "Oh yeah, I want something to drink."
Because I was thirsty.
You was thirsty?
That's what it was.
What
I was kind of
thirst?
thinking, you know what?
Really didn't have a whole lot of conversation that initial interaction.
You were really gentleman-like. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the first interaction of the night.
Yeah, I saw you walking, and then I took it upon myself to introduce myself.
And let me tell you, when he introduced himself, this is
Here
some
we go.
game,
Get
y'all.
ready.
Okay, this is some game.
Get your popcorn. I hope y'all got your popcorn. Cause y'all just...
he went to shake my hand, right? And so I, held my hand out. This man held my hand, and then he rubbed my knuckles.
All at one time.
He rubbed my knuckles, y'all. I said, oh my, I was taken aback. I said, clutch the pearls.
Extra.
This is some new game, and I don't know what that man said. All I know is that my hand was held, my knuckles was rubbed, and the next thing I know, he got my number.
Just like that.
And I was just like, okay, so he has my attention. Like, at that point, he had my attention. Then I was about to leave the event. The event was over. I have a pretty good level of self-awareness, but because it was late, it was dark, but then he appeared. And he asked to exchange numbers, and we did.
The night was winding down, people were leaving, and at the corner of my eye, I saw Monique leaving. Went outside and, asked her if maybe she wanted to grab something to eat sometime and, kind of get to know each other a little better. And so
there was some communication. So after we exchanged numbers, our actual first time seeing each other after that, I believe, was at church.
We actually met in college at Fort Hays State.
I was a sophomore, he was senior.
Yeah, I remember I saw her dancing at the club, our local club, and I followed her home in my car.
Just at a dance club, though, to be clear. Yeah. I had seen him around a little bit before that, but we'd never been introduced.
As I was following her home in my car, I had the window down, rolling pretty slow, and I just kept talking to her, and it kind of evolved from there.
Well, I would say it was your typical college relationship. So it wasn't dates and going to movies. We did hang out a lot. We hung out at my apartment and we played a lot of cards, but we didn't go on a whole lot of dates, and we just spent time together.
We had an interesting journey. It kind of took a while, on again, off again for several years. And then we had a child together.
While in college, I had a part-time job at a salon, and while working there, I met this new woman, but she just came up to me one day after having a conversation with her, and she was like, "Are you in a relationship?" And I was like, "No, I'm not in a relationship." And she's like, "Oh my gosh, I have the perfect person for you to meet. It's my husband's best friend." She gave me Daniel's number after getting his permission. It took a while, but he finally called me, and we ended up talking for like hours, which is really crazy. And we got to know each other, and he was really funny. I felt like he was like warm-hearted, had a great personality, kind, gentle, friendly, and I just really liked having a conversation with him.
Whenever my best friend's wife pitched me the idea, I was like, okay, just, whatever. And I really wasn't looking for anything, and we talked on the phone and we clicked on the phone. I was like, okay, well, this could, go somewhere. And I think we were, talking and kind of hanging out for just maybe a little bit over a month and a half before we decided to make it official. Yeah, I really wasn't in a rush. I was just enjoying life, heavily involved with the church, the mentoring program at the time. So my single season was I was just focused on doing the duties of the church and just doing me, really.
So my singleness season, it wasn't anything special. So my friends call me like the mama bear of the group. I pretty much like took care of everybody, and I'm the oldest of 4, and I was raised by a single mother, so my focus was completely different. I was more focused on like going to college, getting my degree, not getting caught up, didn't want to be with child, so I was not looking for anyone.
The dating process, probably just a little over a month, if that. It didn't take that long.
And then we dated for 2 years.
2 years and 2 years and 4 months.
And then Daniel proposed.
The first time we actually went on a date, like out to eat, was at Q39, and Anthony had brought some roses. He know I love flowers. I'm like, okay, look at you. We had some good eats and some good conversation.
Just kind of from our conversations on the phone, she seemed really genuine, someone that was easy to talk to and was intriguing, to a point where kind of drew me in. The more that I got to know her and the more I wanted to know about her and really get to know who she was, as a person outside of what I had known so far. That really kind of built upon itself in our conversations, just naturally.
Anthony was very consistent, and that's the one thing that I looked for. That's one thing that I actually needed. I needed somebody to be consistent. He also was a gentleman. That was something else that really attracted me to him. The crazy thing is just like maybe in the past, you just kind of used to people putting on, for so long. He was very consistent throughout the whole thing. But I remember thinking like, okay, he's like this now, let's see how he is 3 months in. Let's see how he is 6 months in, 9 months in, and nothing changed. And it really confronted like my things that I had going on in me, because he was the same. And it really drew me and kept me.
Naturally, there was a physical attraction, but as we got to know each other, we got to kind of peel back some of the layers a little bit and kind of know each other inwardly. And so in anticipation and excitement, to see each other, to talk, to catch up, to figure out, when we're going to be able to spend more time together with our schedules and, making it a point, being intentional about doing that and not just letting it happen whenever it happened.
And for me, I've never been the type to like people really easily or fall in love really easily. Never been that type. I started trusting him more and more and more. But what did it for me is we went on a trip for my birthday to Puerto Rico. Now you have to know, when you go out of town with somebody, that is like the ultimate test. Okay, this was the first time that we were spending consecutive days together. This was traveling, and we're not just going to St. Louis, right? We're flying, traveling can be exhausting too. So it's like you just see people in like different situations. But I will say that was the safest I had ever felt. And then while we were there, I ate something bad and I threw up, and he cleaned up my throw up. By the time we got back to Kansas City, I said, oh, he's the one.
We dated for roughly about a year and a half. It was really kind of, I guess easy. It really wasn't anything too stressful or strenuous. I would say we got to a point where we really were starting to get serious, and it was kind of like, okay, what's next? There were some things that she needed to figure out for herself as far as her feelings about us and kind of some hurts in the past. And so for about probably like 2 or 3 weeks or so, we just kind of cut it off because it just kind of got to a point where we couldn't move forward until she got to a place where she was able to do that. That was very frustrating because one, I didn't see it coming. I felt like we were in a really good place. It wasn't a reflection of us. It was more a reflection of what she had gone through in the past and not resolving that. It kind of put us in a situation that I wasn't necessarily prepared for and didn't really know how to handle. I really kind of took some time to hear from God and really kind of tap in to see how He wanted me to move or not move. kind of through that process, it kind of gave me peace of what we were doing was the right thing for me to just be still. It was a little bit, unnerving, but just kind of trusting God that this was something that was going to happen in order for us to get to that next level, or for the relationship to mature. It was something that was definitely necessary.
Yeah, because when I met Anthony, I wasn't thinking like, oh, I'm about to meet somebody at this event. But it wasn't until, again, like I said, he was being consistent, he was being a gentleman, we had these things in common, and the things just kind of started growing and building, and I said, oh wait, let me make sure that there's nothing lingering in the past that could negatively affect what's going on here. Because here's what I know: when somebody wants you, they are intentional, and he was very intentional, and he was not playing in my face, and I didn't want to play in his face. All my concerns of everything during that time, I just laid it all before the Lord, and I had peace. For the first time, when I prayed about somebody, the peace of God was there, and that's what I needed. If you are a person that has had past hurts or past relationships that may have scarred you, may have, kind of roughed you up, you have to be willing to acknowledge it, and you have to be willing to lay it before the Lord. To have like a real intimate relationship, there is a level of vulnerability that you have to be, and you have to be willing to take that risk. But prayer and just really being honest with yourself, you got to be honest. That is what's going to help you carry you through and, move you along.
At a point, it was just kind of like I really knew that she was the one. And just in my time with God and prayer and fasting, I really had peace about where we were, and that she was the person that, I was meant to marry and spend the rest of my life with.
While we were in New York, he gave me like somewhat of a promise ring, saying, hey, these are my intentions.
Going into that though, I felt the need to talk to your mom, I talked to your dad, and I talked to Granny.
Oh.
Let them know what my intentions were, that I really, love Monique and really see us having a bright future together, and would like to ask her for her hand in marriage. And I asked for their blessing.
And then we also had pre-engagement counseling. A lot of people get counseling when they get engaged, which is great. But we got counseling before the engagement as well, to make sure that we were even thinking about marriage the right way.
That was really vital, I think, to our success and helping prepare us for things that we really probably didn't think about, really didn't know that we needed to think about.
Right.
And so that really kind of set the foundation and kind of groundwork for our relationship and our marriage, kind of where we were headed.
Right before we graduated, I think we began to develop not only a relationship, but a friendship. With that said, I told her one day, I said, you're gonna be my wife. I think the love we shared and a lot of experiences we went through, I think that's really kept the foundation solid. And of course, God himself.
What was significant too with us growing closer, it was so different then. We didn't have cell phones. We actually had to communicate.
Yeah, exactly.
We communicated. Mm-hmm. We just going to the park, going to Worlds of Fun. Mm-hmm. It was communication. It was, if we went out to eat, there was no phone to be on. We had to look at each other and communicate and talk and actually really get to know each other. So that was significant.
And that was really a good thing.
It really was.
I just knew she would always be there. Me from high school to going into the service, getting out the service, going into just different various jobs.
I went out to school at Wichita State. Mm-hmm. So we had a lot of long distance relationships, which I think made it, drew us even closer. They say absence make the heart grow fonder. So not being together and then reconnecting when he was in the military and coming back and forth to visit.
What I loved about Dee, she just had a sweet spirit. And she was a church girl. I liked it that. You know, it's okay to be a church girl. And actually, I grew up in the church too, but I strayed. You know,
you didn't act like a church boy.
I did not act like a church boy. And one thing led to another. I proposed. We got married. Just started a family, man. You know, we was young. And then DeMario, Taylor, then Junior came 6 years later. Yeah.
I remember when he proposed to me, I was at Wichita State in college, and he came down. He worked at Tasty Bread. Mm-hmm. And he came down with one of his friends. We didn't even have money to buy a ring. His mother gave him her old wedding ring, and that's where he proposed to me with. I've never been a huge materialistic person. It was just the thought that counted, and that I felt the love. And I remember him in his white suit that he had to work in. It's not scrubs. It looked like a white leisure suit that they worked in. But he had drove all the way to Wichita to come and see me, and he got that ring out and got down on one knee. I don't know what made him at that point feel like it's time, but I remember him getting down on his knee in that white uniform and proposing to me. Well, what made you want to marry me? What made you?
I don't know. It was just time. Okay. You know, I didn't have a divine revelation at the time because I wasn't in church like that. But I just knew it from my heart. It was time. And plus, I ain't want nobody to take you, you know, while you down in Wichita. You know, I was way off, you know, so.
That's good.
It just kind of evolved from that. So I realized that I needed to break the cycle of single parents in my family. I really needed to be the father and a husband on a daily basis, which I didn't grow up with. That was a moment for me. So in college, I had graduated and moved away and started work, and she was still in college. So we had distance between us. So we never really had that common time to just focus on ourselves and be together because there was space and distance between us.
Honestly, it was difficult. It was on again, off again. We had fun when we were together, but we have pretty different personalities and we clashed a lot. So it was really hard. And then we had our daughter. During that time was very difficult because we were off again. But then when we had her, that kind of brought us back together. We were spending more time together. We were both focused on her. And then we had our son. And that's about the time I think we realized, okay, this is not the right way to go about things. We need to do something about this.
Yeah, I was pretty immature and I didn't have a great example of what a man was supposed to be like in the home and how you were supposed to show love to your spouse. It was easy for me to show love to my children, but it wasn't always easy for me to show love to a spouse. It took me a little bit of time to be able to navigate that. We moved in together, and I think that started to give us a sense of what a relationship was really about, because we never really had gotten that time together.
I think we both just felt like the right thing to do is get married. And I feel very strongly about not living together before you get married or having kids, but that's just how it went. And I feel strongly about that because I think we had a lot of struggles because that's the path that we chose, not necessarily made the decision, but that's where we ended up. So I think that we had a lot of struggles because of that. And it took years of being married before we really started to see the value and find love in each other and really appreciate each other.
Her willingness to sacrifice as a parent really helped me want to try to be better. And her unwavering, unconditional love and trying to support and fight for her family was really what helped us be able to sustain and get to where we are today.
There was a proposal, but not these big proposals that happened today. It was fairly minimal. And we had the whole big wedding, which was actually a lot of fun. However, the day before the rehearsal we were at odds. That night, I don't know if I got any sleep because I was thinking, this is probably not a good idea. But at that time at the age I was at, I thought, well, it's just gonna work. Come to find out it doesn't just work. You have to be very intentional and put a lot of work into it.
Yeah, definitely leading up to the wedding day was stressful. A lot of influence from outside people that kind of negatively affected leading up to it. But once the wedding day happened, it was a great time to be able to see our families blended together and have a good time and be able to enjoy the experience.
We did have a lot of fun on our wedding day, and for all of our families to come together and have such a good time was pretty awesome.
That was memorable. I think not having the time together and the traditional relationship made it a lot more difficult, as she mentioned before. My focus was always trying to make sure that we provided. I didn't grow up with a whole lot, and so I worked a lot, and I wanted to make sure to try to give my kids better than what I had, and that kind of neglected our relationship, and we fought a lot over finances, as younger couples usually do. We kind of had a different vision of how that was working and what our priorities were with that, so that caused some stress.
And then we dated for about 2 years, and then Daniel proposed. Some of the dates we had definitely involved food. We're both foodies. We really liked going out to movies.
Yeah, definitely being active, hanging out. And some days we'll just have a low key where she would come over, cook, or I would cook, and then we would just hang out.
We used to take turns cooking meals for each other, and we would like plan everything and take these ridiculous pictures and put it on social media.
Yeah.
I guess people cared back then, but we look at the time hops and it looks so lame.
It's very, very lame. But it just turned into, like I said, organically into something that I really like her. She's sweet, fun to be around. Yeah, it just happened. There was, for me, there was no aha moment. I want to be with her. It's just like, I really do like her.
For me, he's just a great person overall. It felt like I was with one of my best friends, just not like a female. And we just had a great time together, easy to talk to. I felt like I was at peace. He wasn't and he was just so kind and thoughtful, and he listened to what I said, and it showed up in other ways within our relationship. Like if I said, I like something, he would get that thing, whatever it was, and just because gifts, and he just honestly cared about my perspective on life in general.
And I just loved being around her, and the emotions were just peace and definitely just like she fits. She's supposed to be my girlfriend. She's supposed to be by my side and whatnot. So I think those were like my emotions whenever we were dating, and like when I kind of was like, okay, yeah, this is it.
For me, the craziest thing is, so I was raised by a single mother, but I had a lot of other influences in my life as well, but not so much really men. I was like searching for something that like I've never seen before, but I felt like I knew what it was. I felt a calmness. I didn't feel like anxiety or anger if something happened, just like it was meant to be.
When you are single for a long time, you don't have anybody telling you, you do this and it's annoying, or you shouldn't say this, or you shouldn't do this, and it's tough to hear that because you're perfect. What are you talking? What are we doing here? It's me. I'm perfect. Don't nobody know me like me. Once you are in a relationship with someone and you actually do care about their feelings, care about what they think of you, you can either decide to take that into consideration, or you can deflect and be like, nah, you tripping. I've always been like this, and you're not gonna change me and stuff like that.
When we went to marriage counseling with Bishop and First Lady, one thing I remember them saying is, whenever you're with your significant other, it's like you're looking inside of a mirror, and so that reflection is what your partner sees. And if they're telling you you're doing something, then you probably are, even though you may not think it's a big deal or it doesn't make sense. You should really dig deep and try to figure out, is this something that I should change? And if so, why was I that way? Where did that come from? And it's all about communication in the end.
I was very unserious. She asked me a very simple question, but I gave a very sarcastic answer. The way her face just dropped, she was just like, can you just answer the question? That was kind of like, ooh, okay, so maybe I don't have to be joking all the time. Maybe sometimes I can, dial it back.
Okay, so when we first got together, I was like super sensitive. I guess a lot of things bothered me, and one day he came up to me and he was like, I feel like I'm always walking on eggshells around you. And like anytime, any moment, a bomb could go off. And I was like, okay, you did something that bothered me, so. I realized that's something that I need to change, and I worked on it. It's all about like picking your battles. You don't always have to speak about every single little thing that your partner does. You just have to be okay with it, as long as it's not like destructive to your life. But I think I was someone that liked to point out every single thing that annoyed me, and I just learned to like go with the flow. We knew we wanted a future together, so we made it happen.
Yeah, no specific highs that kept us together. It's just our commitment and love for one another. The whole relationship was just organic, and there was no aha moment, no swelling violins and things like that. But it was the Holy Spirit, and it was just God, and I just had peace about the decision. Whenever we had disagreements about something, big disagreements when we were dating, we found a way to come back together. After our 2-year anniversary, I decided I was going to propose, but I didn't want to propose on the 2-year anniversary. I wanted to propose on New Year's Eve.